Publishing crisp-looking pictures in black and white on the open web press can be a bit of a challenge. Newsprint takes ink and it moves it everywhere. So if you've got a lot of black, you really need to get rid of that. You can also have some problems here where you've got really high contrast. And in here, we have the chalkboard in the background, we have the girls' faces, and to contrast that, they're wearing crisp white blouses. Let's look at some really simple ways in Photoshop in which you can get this color into black and white and have everything look crisp when you finally publish it. First thing I'm going to do is go up to Image and go to Mode, and I am going to change this into grayscale, and it will ask me if I want to discard it, and I'm going to say yes. So now I have a grayscale picture, but it's not ready to print quite yet. Next thing I want to do is I want to make the whites whiter and the darks darker, but the problem if I make the whites too white, and in order to do that you're going to go up to Image Adjustment Levels. And you can see right here, it brings the whites up. I can also change my midtones right here too. And so it's going to change the girls' faces, and I can bring the blacks in. I don't want to do this quite yet though, because what I want to do is preserve the girls' white shirts and then bring up the contrast on their faces a little bit. So I am going to go to my Layers palette right here, and first thing I'm going to do is duplicate this layer. So I'm going to take the background and I'm going to move it down here to duplicate it. And when I duplicate that layer, you're going to see I have background copy right here, which is going to work out really well for us. In the background copy, I am going to adjust my layers now. So again, I can go up to Image and choose Adjustment and Levels, or I can just do Command L or Control L if you're on a PC. And in this picture, I'm worried about the contrast of the girl's face. Now, before I do that too, I want to get specs from my printer. And I know for our printer, we want the darkest areas, let's say this chalkboard, to be about 87% black or crayon, the girls' faces to be around 37%, and their blouses to be about 7%. So how do I find that information? I'm going to go up to Window and I'm going to choose Info. Notice as I drag my cursor around, it's telling me how much crayon, how much black I have in the pictures. So if I pull it over here on the blouses, I'm getting anywhere from 20 to 40% if I'm looking in the creases right here. On the girls' faces, these are 73. So this is going to be entirely too dark. So how do I adjust that? In the background layer that I copied, I am going to go to Command L or Control L if you are on a PC, and looking at her face, I am going to pull up the whites to make her face lighter. I can actually move it up, get a little grayer, and I can bring a little bit of black in here. And I'm looking all the time at my picture to see what's happening. Notice though, even though her face now has come down to 57 in some areas, 40 in others, I could bring it up a little bit more and try to get her these places, and see now it's running into the 40s and 30s. And since she does have dark skin, I'm going to say that's going to be okay for that. Notice what has happened to her blouse though. I've totally blown it out. We're going to fix that in a minute. I'm going to hit OK. Now, remember the layer mask. If you haven't seen the layer mask video, go back and look at that. I'm going to take my background copy that I have adjusted with light. I'm going to come down here and click on the layer mask and work in here. And using the layer mask, I am going to reveal all this detail in her blouse. So, layer mask is on. I make sure I click inside the layer mask. I go to my toolbar. I remember that black hides, white reveals. I'm going to get my brush tool out. I'm going to make sure that this brush tool is feathered and I have a fairly large size, and then I can go over here and paint on her blouse. And notice I'm getting a lot of this detail back. I'm going to close this right now and continue on here so that you can get an idea of how I can just go in and I can paint. If I decide this color is too dark for some areas, like right there in the front, I could come up with the opacity and I could change this to perhaps 70%, and I could paint in and still get the contrast but get a little bit less of it. And I can do this to the entire picture, moving my tools out of the way, get the teacher's shirt up here. I think this actually detracts from the teacher's shirt, so I'm actually going to make that a whole lot lighter. I'm just going to say like 40%. I'm going to bring this in, and I can get the rest of these girls too. So here I have a lot of detail with the girls' blouses. I'm able to see their faces really well, and this picture is going to print really well in black and white on newsprint. That's it.